Thank you very much, Dr. Trudy Barber, School of Media and Performing Arts, University of Portsmouth, for joining me today. Can you start just by telling us a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Hi Matt. Well, what I do on a day-to-day basis is basically I run one of our cross-disciplinary degrees, which encompasses looking at media studies and digital practice. So we cover things like transmedia narratives and strategies. We look at ideas of form and function. We do a combination of digital artifact plus theoretical and critical thinking approaches to contemporary media. I also oversee different undergraduate theses, their dissertations. I teach on the master's communications that we do here at Portsmouth, and I'm external examiner at a couple of other different universities, and I also oversee PhDs and do internal examining of those and external examining of those too. So overall, I kind of into the digital arts, digital media, and how it affects us and how we engage with it.
Interesting. So the reason that I brought you in today is I wanted to just explore a little bit around artificial intelligence and robotics, specifically sex robots. So my first question to you is, do you think that sex robots in the future will be able to create a feeling of empathy with the users, and do we call them users?
Well, it's interesting because when I originally did my PhD, I looked at how people engage with their technology for sexual interaction and different ways of deviating and innovating. And one of the things I'm finding really interesting looking at digital media as things are progressing and emerging and converging is the way that people actually attach themselves to their technologies. So I'm really interested in things as simple as the mobile phone, how we attach ourselves to that mobile phone. Other academics have described things like the mobile phone as a repository of our personal history. And I think that's absolutely true with all the different types of technology that we engage with. And I think once with artificial intelligence, where we start having sort of a datafication of our identities fed back to us, we're going to, of course, have different forms of attachment to that artificial intelligence. And I think that would be really, really interesting to see how we engage further and how we develop new forms of artificial intelligence engagement with us, forming a cycle of sort of innovation.
So the other thing is that with every new technology comes hopefully solutions, but also associated problems. So where do you think the opportunities and the problems for society might lie as sex robots go mainstream?
I think particularly with ideas of sexuality and sexual engagement with technology and sex robots per se, is it depends how you define your idea of sexual engagement and how you define the robot. So I've got a way of looking at it in two ways. One is you've got a robot that you could tinker with in your garage on a Saturday afternoon. And then you have the artificial human that you would probably want to take out to dinner. You've got these whole different ways of engaging with different categories and different layers of technology, artificial intelligence, and how we are affected by them or have our relationships with them, because we're talking about having relationships with objects here. So I think the challenges are going to be overcoming stigma of people wanting to have, well, if you think in terms of the sex dolls at the moment, the Roxy sex dolls, like great big silicon Barbie dolls that quite frankly are, I'm sorry, but they're hilarious. And you think that some poor person has to engage with that. There is a stigma there. There is something like, oh, well, maybe they can't have real-time relationships. But as you have the response from the AI within the technology as it becomes further developed, I think the stigma will eventually disappear. It's kind of like, why on earth would you want to have a computer in your house when the internet first arrived? Who'd want that? And now everybody's got it. So I think it will absolutely depend on how we are perceived ourselves with our nature of engagement with the technology, and then again as how that artificial intelligence learns from that and feeds it back to us. So that's one challenge, is going to be getting over the stigma of that kind of behavior and admitting that kind of love for an object in that sense. And I think the exciting thing is it's going to enable us to really, well, I've got this thing about deviation and innovation. And it's one of the papers I wrote in 2005. And I think it will enable us to really be able to innovate and be even more creative by engaging with these new forms of artificial senses of self, if you like, not just in terms of the technology, but in terms of ourselves, because I see it as a reflection of who we are now. You know, when you hear, you know, think about science fiction stories, they're kind of metaphors and reflections of what was going on at the time. And I think with the different things like the sex robots, all this kind of stuff is a reflection of exactly what's going on with us in our sense of time now. It's really interesting in the times of fake news. It's really interesting in the times of such radical change that we've got this whole rush to virtual space. We've got the rush to artificial intelligence. It's almost like we're trying to get away from ourselves. So it's going to be really interesting. We're going to be able to deviate and innovate really excitingly, really fantastically, be really creative, really artistic. And in turn, we'll be having a mirror on ourselves, which would be really interesting that will bring out maybe some stigmas that also need to be overcome.
Interesting. So I'd like to thank you so much for your time. I could talk about this for hours, but as I said to you at the beginning, we need to keep it quite brief. So thank you for your time, Dr. Trudy Barber. If anybody would like to get in touch with you, I've put in your email and URL at the bottom of the screen. And thanks very much.
Thank you. It's been great.